All right. Yeah, we're gonna have to have a conversation about this because you know what? We're just gonna play the video. Now, this is a tier list that both Mike Hollow and MK Tom Brady were working on in his knowledge of all of the games. Just
Mortal Kombat Deadly Alliance. And I'm going to put it in front of UMK3 and after MK Trilogy. You know what? No, I'm going to put it before MK Trilogy. Mortal Kombat Deadly Alliance. You guys don't understand. And I pray to God that this game gets put. And I'm going to say
I was saying this earlier, actually.
And I'm going to say how good this game is. There's only one game above it. That's how good this game is. This is the most high-level Mortal Kombat game they have ever created. And I'm not joking. First of all, I talked to MK Hanzo about this. They played this. They broke UMK3, broke MK4, etc. This is the only one they couldn't break. They couldn't break it. There was nothing outside of what we discovered in this game over the years and years of playing this game. You guys don't understand the significance of this. You don't.
I do.
Is it
I tried to tell these guys.
Blurry? It looks blurry for me. Is it blurry?
No, I had to make it 144p because StreamYards has trouble streaming games when they're moving too fast.
Oh man, see that
it's
voice?
Still a beautiful looking game,
fast. When it's moving too fast, it's a beautiful looking game.
Yeah.
I am very vexed right now. I am extremely vexed. Right? And it's only going to get worse, I think.
Yeah.
Let me just quickly go over all the greatness of this game. First of all, Mortal Kombat was out of sight, out of mind. Before this, first of all, as far as community goes, before this game, the Mortal Kombat sites go as follows. There was Mortal Kombat Nightmares. Mortal Kombat Nightmares was the first site for competitive Mortal Kombat. MK Nightmares. This is where people would try to set up matches during the end days of MK4 and after MK kind of like left the tournament scene for quite a while. So from 97 up until this game in 2002, MK was done basically. Or I should say from like 99. So they were a good 3-4 years where MK was done. Unless you saw, there were no good arcade ports released. So unless you saw it, on arcade, people didn't. Trilogy was okay, but nobody liked the N64 pad. And it wasn't like today.
I'm sorry, could you speak into my good ear? Did you just say Mortal Kombat Trilogy was okay? I mean, like, that's a wild take, but let's continue.
Where you could emulate it or whatever. Trilogy was okay, but again, your stick options weren't great. I don't know. People just didn't. Competitive MK was pretty much dead. And then comes this game, and this game did not disappoint. Now, obviously, there are a lot of people who just, the UMK players mainly, who just did not like the 3D aspect, which I can understand. They're going to 3D. They don't like it. And I totally understand that. However, this game implemented the 3 stand switches. It implemented, which did pretty good. It was actually pretty well how they implemented it. Where you had your one, I mean, Ed Boon in his brain, which, I mean, how good is that actually, Ed Boon's brain, in which you would have an offensive stance, a defensive stance, and a weapon. Spoiler, it didn't work like that. Not the first time that'll happen to Ed Boon. But the 3 stance system was surprisingly very, very good. And now you would think that a game this old would just be very simple and have a lack of advanced mechanics. Far from it, actually. This is one of the most advanced Mortal Kombat games they ever made.
To be fair, though, like, like they had pretty good pedigree around them. They had obviously Virtual Fighters, they had Tekkens, they had Dead or Alives. Like that's what I mean. Like it's not like this was the first 3D fighter that was ever made. It might have been the first 3D Mortal Kombat game they made, but to compete with other games at the time, particularly in the home market, because this was the first time that we actually got. Outside of obviously Trilogy, but Trilogy essentially was, you know, the bookend of the arcade MK3 era or 2D era series. This was the first Mortal Kombat home. You know, there was no arcade port of Deadly Alliance, and then, you know, we had to wait for the home port of it. So they were competing in a space, right, against other 3D fighters. But they also could see what the other 3D fighters as well were doing, which is why I've always referred to as like the 3D era as violent Tekken, because and I'm just curious where he's going to go, right? Because I tell you what, Deadly Alliance was so good that they actually had to change fundamental stuff that was not included in this game, right? Things like I think Scorpion may have been one of the only characters with an uppercut. There were no sweeps. The fatalities were dog shit. You know, it didn't feel like Mortal Kombat at all. Right, Mortal Kombat maybe in look and maybe in tone, music, things like that, but the entire combat changed completely from what we had in the 2D era. Everything was a lot slower, right? It slowed right down. Like you compare the speed of this game versus, say, you know, the MK3 series, right? And this thing's geriatric, you know. And I love the speed of the MK3, like the MK3 series. It's amazing. It's lightning fast. It's crazy. Anyway, let's continue.
As a pure 3D fighter, this game is fucking remarkable. I mean, remarkable. And really the only one that plays like an actual traditional 3D fighter. The other two, not so much. This game had the crypt. It's the first time the crypt was introduced. And they put in all kind of cool shit. If you were in the crypt, you would hear stuff in the background, hear stuff whispering. You would hear somebody whispering. People like, what is that? What is that whisper saying? What's going on? You know, what's that whisper saying? Wait, hold on. Another work call. Hold on, boy.
See, guys, I tried to, whilst Tom is taking that work call, I've been telling all of you for years, and now you're hearing it from a competitive player. I told everyone, Deadly Alliance is the best 3D Mortal Kombat, and it might be one of the best Mortal Kombat games ever.
This is why the 2D era has issue with the 3D era. And let's be fair, the 3D era wouldn't exist if it wasn't for the 2D era, right? You can't build a foundation. You can't build a house on no foundation. You know what I'm saying? Right? Respect your elders and all that shit. So, no, the 3D era was so good that they never went back to it.
Said it, and for years you can check the tapes. I still got them on my channel. People in my comment section, yo, what are you talking about? 3D Mortal Kombat sucks. And I was like, I don't think these guys played them. I think they're just repeating what they've heard people saying. And then in the 3D crowd, I had people saying to me, Deception's the best one, Mike. Deception's the best one. I said, no, bro. Deception's got the best content. It's got the best content, 100%. Conquest is amazing.
Well, just again, Deception, they listened to the feedback, right? And that's why Deception was a better game. Not obviously because of the content, but because of the mechanics. They added in uppercuts against sweeps. You know, they added in, obviously they had massive changes to the stages, right? They realized that they were deviating too far from MK. Now, maybe on like a competitive micro level when it comes to like mechanics and stuff like that in terms of like the combat, sure. But again, it's a 3D fighter, right? Like you'll never convince a 2D MK fan that the 3D era was superior. You'll never will. It'll never happen because not only is it the foundation of Mortal Kombat, one did not exist without the other, but also that the 3D era fundamentally changed so much. It changed the way combos worked. It changed the way movement worked. It changed the way jumping worked. It changed the way so much because they were emulating Tekken. Like they were emulating a 3D fighter. That's why, you know, I mean, as an MK fan, sure, we tolerated it and dealt with it because the general product itself still felt like Mortal Kombat. But I've always stated that I never liked the combat system, right? Because they were you know, it just sort of, you know, it felt like certain characters, for example, get certain martial arts stance, like arbitrarily. Like, you know, like I think one variation of Sub-Zero in one of the 3 versions that came out, he's got a karate stance, karateka. Why the fuck are you in a front stance if you're a ninja? You don't do a front. Does anyone know what a front stance is? I'll tell you what a front stance is, because this is what I used to teach. Right, a front stance, right, is when you've got like your hand here, right, and normally you do it in a low block. Your other hand is pulled back on your hip, right, all the way back, right. You're blocking low. That's how you go into a front stance. Boom, like that. That's a front stance. No fucking ninja, right, is walking into a fight like this. This is the stupidest shit I've ever seen. Right? Stupid.
All the mini games are amazing, but as a fighting game, this is better.
So let me, God, this game I could write a novel on, and it's wow.
It's also got the best Scorpion design.
I mean, unreal. If
I'm not gonna lie, like some of the designs are pretty good, and that's fine. Like, you know, but you're talking designs, right? We're not like, my main issue comes down to the fundamental fact that they changed the very nature of how Mortal Kombat felt. And in this game, like I've already pointed out, certain aspects were removed or dulled down completely, to try and, it's almost like if Deadly Alliance was as successful as they would hoped for, Deception would have been a different game. Deception would have carried over the same mechanics in terms of like no uppercuts, no sweeps. They really would have taken all of that, you know, into the next game, but they didn't. And we're talking about a period of time when the internet was still in its infancy, and with all the feedback, they still listened to that and changed the game to being one of the best 3D fighters in the MK series, which is Deception.
give me, Mike, give me something that you would consider one of the biggest accidents to ever happen in humanity that turned into something amazing.
Biggest, what, in gaming or in general?
In general, on Earth.
Oh, I'm gonna say something offensive.
Whatever that is.
I'm just gonna say Smash Melee. Smash Melee was a massive, massive accident. It was never meant to be that good.
Well, I'm talking about. I don't know.
I don't want to say something offensive, because I was gonna say something, but I might offend a whole bunch of people.
This is one of the greatest accidents in fighting game history. Absolutely nothing they thought about how this game would play. It probably did. Let me just say that. So I can give them credit, but let's not pretend you're dealing with rockets.
Not to mention, like I just realized, not to mention they devolved, right, Reptile into a fucking gimp lizard. Right? This was, you know, at the Godzilla cookout, right? Reptile was a shitty, like, you know, not all the wires are connected, and he sat at the back table out of the way, right? That's Reptile in the 3D era. They fucked him up, which is why, right, again, once the time Shaolin monks rolled around, and we finally got, like, an actual, like, ninja outfit for him in Armageddon, people were very happy, because they didn't like the fact that they turned him into a fucking, like, an actual lizard. Part of what made Reptile really cool, so for some of us that are old enough to remember this, is that Reptile, I think they based him, I could be wrong, but there was an old TV show back in the 80s called V, right? And V was about this alien race that came down to Earth. They looked exactly like us, but if they peeled back their skin, they were actually reptiles underneath. And I wonder if that was the inspiration for Reptile in the game. He looked human, but once you peel back that skin, he was actually reptilian underneath, right? And a very popular show back in the 80s, and they did a remake of it. It wasn't nowhere near as good, because back in the 80s, that was scary as fuck. You know, you're like, you see that shit happening back on TV back then, and you thought that shit was real, man, right? And then they turned him into a gecko, a fucking dumbass goanna.
Scientists over there. This game had, okay, so let me just preference, it wouldn't be a NetherRealm game or a Mortal Kombat game without stupidity during tested. The infinite bonehead, Adam Hernandez, who he knows I don't like him, and if you ever want to play me in any game to this day, Adam, I will still beat the stuffing out of you. Adam Hernandez, I just don't like people who treat people like garbage, and he treated other testers very poorly because he thought he was better than them, even though he might have been better than them, but he himself was terrible. So in this game, they had no fucking clue how the game played. They had no fucking clue how the tier list was. And of course they didn't test, because during one of their streams, when I'm talking to, so they did something on then MK Nightmares, which then became MK Mortal Kombat, MK5.org.
Yeah, I remember MK5.org.
In MK5.org, they did a fight night in which you can get on IRC, and I'm trying to get messages to people. I see Paulo, I message him. Paulo, Baricho has an infinite, Frost has an infinite. I'm going through the 4 of them. In Paulo Garcia goes, what is it? So I said, hey, Baricho can do his...
But by the way, like, because you mentioned IRC, MIRC, that's a trip. I used to be on IRC all the... IRC is still going. IRC is a chat client. It was one of the very early chat clients back in the day. And you would set up rooms for anything, right? So for where I live, we set up a room for the city, so you could go in there and meet other people. And we used to go to like parties and hang out all the time and shit, go play pool and stuff like that back in the day. I think I met a couple of girlfriends actually through MIRC. Whew! Anyway, that's another story or two. But anyway, so that was really cool. And it was also one of the early ways, before torrents or anything like that. It was another way for people to acquire stuff.
It was full branch, and then just puke puddle again. There's no lockout. Like Scorpion can't spear you infinitely because after a certain amount of hits, the spear is disabled. Not the case for Baricho. And he goes, and I said, Frost can slide, and then you can't block the ground freeze. Paulo goes, did you try hitting down back block? I'm like, yes, Paulo. I tried hitting every fucking direction and block. You can't block it. So the most simplistic, mindless infinites got passed. However, they were very easy to police because it's clearly done with intention, right? Also, infinites like Sonya's and Draman, which Draman still was a timeout infinite because it couldn't physically take 100% of your health. You could do something by constantly tapping, sidestepping up or down, and it would reset timers quickly. So for example, if Draman were to, let's just say throw you, which gave him a ground bounce throw, and then bounce you again, he could backdash to get far enough away to make sure the combo would work, and then ground pound, or ground pound you in general. If he ground pounded you, period, he could then do an attack like his Iron Club back 2, which would keep you launched in the air long enough and you couldn't tech roll. Backdash to give space to get the combo. Tap down, 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 and it would reset the timer fast enough to which he could re-ground pound you before you could get up, and then bounce you again, backdash, down, 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 down. So it was clearly no way to say, oh, I accidentally did it, right? There was clear intent. Same with Sonya resetting the kiss. You'd have to, again, sidestep up or down, down, down to reset the timer. So they were very easy to ban. Obviously, if you go online today, some asshole is clearly going to do it. However, even if you allow Frost Infinite, she's still not even in the top 5s, because we played with these Infinites on for a little bit to see how game-breaking are they really, and hers was really the only one that was not kind of game-breaking. So we just said, okay, well, just ban them all, and they were very easy to ban. Mm-hmm. That is the only downside to this game. Now, I know some modern players going to say, oh, Tom, the Infinites, downside. Bro, you went to EVO and played with block Infinites. Shut the fuck up. You know, even your modern games get launched with them, but they get patched out. The modern MK player just like to pretends they don't. MK9 had Infinites that were patched out. MKX had Infinites, block Infinites. MKX had a block Infinite still a year into the game's life. It still had a block Infinite in it. Mm-hmm. So, let's not pretend like, Homelander had a block Infinite at EVO. Let's not pretend like your games are, etc. Jackie, never mind. But this game had a very advanced combat system. So obviously this stage was banned because you had the acid, and there
The
were only
acid.
one fatality. So as far as single player content goes, you were encouraged to do the conquest mode, which at that time was just a tutorial with each character.
Yep.
And as you progress to the next part of it, they would get you onto doing combos, stances, just to really teach you the basics of the game. That's not in a boring tutorial type of way. Like the tutorials now, I do agree when Fate says like they are somewhat boring. No one wants to sit there. Hey, here's blocking. Here's this. It's done in a fun way, a lot more fun than they're done today because you're doing it with the music is. Let me just go ahead and link you to the music because I want you to play it for these people. So this.
What do you mean these people? I'm just kidding. Did I say that about boring? I probably did. I say a lot of shit. But he's right though. Like, you know, if you make teaching someone really engaging, then it's gonna sink in. Like when I used to teach martial arts, we had adult class and kids class, right? And adults are easy to teach because they want to be there, right? They choose to be there. But kids are dropped off. You know, maybe they need some discipline. Maybe the parents, you know, want to go afternoon getting sloshed and they want to dump their kids off at the class, you know, or whatever, right? There's a whole bunch of reasons why parents will bring their kids to martial arts school. And so to make sure that the kids are entertained and that they want to come back and they're engaged with what you're teaching them, you have to make it interesting. You have to make it fun, right? And you know, part of that is you know, making sure that while they're having fun with something, that they're also learning at the same time, right? And that's part of the, you know, part of the trick of getting that balance between fun and learning, so that way it stays ingrained and they want to come back and they want to do more, you know, and grow from there. And fighting games should have the same aspect. I didn't find, to be perfectly honest, I found the tutorial training in Granblue pretty good actually. It felt like, you know, it felt like I understood what it was necessary for me to do. It didn't feel very boring. Like it felt like in the MK1 tutorials. Again, I could be wrong, but it sort of felt like it kind of ramped up real quick. Like you'd start doing some combos and then instantly they just give you a cameo and go, right, to this big string. Now, the problem I had with that too, just as an aside, is that, you know, they didn't make it so you could use any cameo. It was only very specific cameos, right? So, but it's like, yeah, but what if I want to try this string but change it from Frost to Jax, or from Jax to, you know, Kung Lao, or Kung Lao to Scorpion, right? Everything was very set. So that in it itself felt very rigid. And to be honest, I didn't find it fun. I mean, MK1 was pile shit anyway, but...
This is the music that you're listening to in training mode. Let's see, MKDA, not training but Conquest. Let me go send this to you. And this is the difference between modern Mortal Kombat and the shit we get now. So let me send this to you on Twitter. Mike, kindly play this. I'm going to get a Pepsi really quick. Kindly play this for these people. Listen to this. This is what you're listening to as you're learning your characters. And you're like, I don't know what I'm doing. I got to learn my specials. What are these stances? This is the background you're going to get. Listen to this song.
All right, let me bring it up. Can you not hear that?
I don't hear it.
You don't hear it?
No.
Maybe I've got to share the screen for you to hear it.
Listen to this shit, man. This is awesome.
Can you hear this?
I cannot hear it.
I think it's got to be on. Hold on, sorry guys. StreamYards is really lame. I got to put this on Chrome. For some reason it just doesn't play.
Streamlabs
on Mozilla Firefox.
Streamlabs. 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 Discord, Streamlabs.
This is what you're listening to. This sounds like something I would expect in Mortal Kombat.
Listen to those drums.
This is what we're trying to do.
Yeah, they don't make music like this anymore.
And yes, the Conquest mode also gives you the story so far. The Conquest, the stage or stages you're on are very dark. You get the dark music. I mean, dude, you could literally turn the lights out, do this shit, and you're like, this is fucking awesome. And then it gives you rewards, coins, which you then go to the crypt. So imagine you just get this game, you're playing Conquest. Now it's 11 o'clock at night. You've been learning all the characters. You want to spend your coins. You go in the crypt, you got the lights off, and then the crypt. I mean, I wish you could play the ambiance of the crypt, but you can't because the person just keeps opening over and over and over again.
Yeah.
The crypt ambiance is very dark. I mean, it's so awesome. And this is before you get to the gameplay. This game captures you. One thing people don't forget is how they feel. So when you see some of the players, that are not quote unquote pros, talk about these games in a certain way, a game will never make you forget you'll never forget how you feel when you do something. A lot more than anything else. It sucked you in, it brought you in. And then to the crypt, and the crypt would have all kind of stuff. Obviously we wanted to unlock the characters, and that the players were trying to hey, online we're on mk5.org, we're like, I opened this casket, this is what you get. I opened this casket, oh, you get onyx coins or this coins. I opened this casket, and you get my girlfriend's looking at me like, yeah, sure, you're done with gaming. I swear she's always like, just do it. Just do it.
She say you're in denial.
Yeah. No, I'm done. Don't miss it. This is for the fans.
Bull fucking shit. It is for the fans. Don't bullshit, man. Right? Don't bullshit, man. Come on, listen. The announcement of the Legacy Collection, right, is exactly what the Mortal Kombat community needed, right? Because when they bring it out, and then they bring out the 3D collection at some point, right? This is our element, bro. Right? This is what a lot of us have been talking about for a really long time. Right? Look at the smile on this fucking dial. Look at it. Right? If he had lipstick on, he'd be getting it on his earlobes. You're not fucking done. Maybe you're done with slop. Or all done with slop. I get that, but you ain't fucking done, man. Come on, dude.
Fans of the games. But everything about so you're in the crypt, and
you can't fucking listen. Your girlfriend knows, your wife knows when you're bullshitting, man. Right? I bet you she's still shaking her head for 5 minutes after this. Right? She's like, I know you.
Everyone's sharing information. It was very much an old school feel in the internet era, in the age of where information is starting to spread, and it was a community effort. The reason why Floyd was such a big deal, because we haven't seen a community effort like that in over 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
And this is probably one of the last times you saw something like that. It was really awesome. So you're in Conquest mode. You're learning your characters. You're going through the crypt. You're buying stuff. You're buying skins. It's really cool. And then as you're playing people, you have mini games. Test your sight. Test your might. You're also getting coins for that. You can wager coin. Of course, there was a bug in which the infinite coin bug. But if you're playing for fun, you could wager coins against your friends. You could both plug 2 memory cards in, your profile, his profile. It was such a cool experience. And then you get to the gameplay, and the gameplay is even better. Obviously, we had to ban the acid stage. The gameplay has it is very advanced. So the footsies and spacing is very important in this game. So the testers in this game, they thought Shang Tsung was the best character in the game. The problem is they were like, oh, sidestepping. They thought that was like the end all be all. The problem is like we get the game, our crew, we're playing. I have a friend. I want to give a shout out to him, the great Derek Perez. Only the real OGs know, the Capcom community knows. Derek Perez, unbelievably talented player. And there were several other people that I was with, also the Capcom community. Papa Valle will remember BLT. These were at that time very high level players in some of the Capcom world. A lot of guys will talk about these guys. I believe Eric V was there as well, Eric Valencia, who was very good MVC2 player in his own right as well. We just had a lot of people that were there playing. And so we're playing the games, and Shang is just sidestepping everything. So rather than like everybody else was like, oh, well, the testers, they're like, Shang is top one. So we were like, okay, well, let's see what we can do about this sidestep thing. So one night, I was playing my friend Derek Perez probably till about 5 o'clock in the morning. It must have been like 7-8 hours straight. And I'm like, I'm just going to do random select, and I'm going to try everything. And I'm just losing. So you could do that back then because nobody was playing for money. We were just playing for fun and to learn. Nobody was online talking about the scores. So you're able to be free and you're able to learn. So I'm losing. And at the time, I'm Mr. Mortal Kombat in this era. But you guys, before there was Sonic, Fox, or XYZ, there was me. Let's not forget that. I was one of the original final bosses of Mortal Kombat. And I'm getting my head stomped in, and nobody cares. I don't care. We're not like, what's the score? Play first to 5. But none of that garbage. No one on posting on the message board like, oh, I'm beating so-and-so or I'm losing. No one complaining about the matchups. So after an exhaustion of just getting my head kicked in, I was doing a random select, like, please, God, show me the answer. Or I'm like, is this really like, wow, this is that powerful? So I got frost one time, and I'm just holding up, and I'm mashing on 3, and like a complete scrub whose brain is fried. And I keep hitting him when he sidesteps. And I'm like, oh, this move is unsafe. Anyone, who cares? And I'm like, man, why is this one move hitting you over and over and over again? Because I wasn't trying to think. I was just holding up and mashing, right? Mm-hmm. And I'm like, up 3. I was like, the only thing that's weird about this move is it has up in it. And I was like, it has up in it. And universal tracking was discovered. And then Shang Tsung went from number 1 unbeatable outside of the top 5 and probably down even further, if I remember correctly. And then advancement really started to happen. We debunked again, you'll see this a lot over history. Chicago thinks they know everything, but they know absolutely nothing, at least in that era. And debunked it, and the whole game opened up now. Now, it wasn't about, oh my God, nobody can hit Shang Tsung's crane stance, etc. So this game did a bunch of interesting things. It accidentally solved the problem of my character has no good mids. There are plenty of good mids in this game, but of course, not every character is going to have good mids, right? Highs will hit you in transition to crouch blocking within, I believe, the first few frames. So if you're going to crouch block or crouch in general as a high is coming out, almost like what we would consider a micro duck, the jab would still hit you, which gave characters without dominant mids still good ways to play. So fast jabbers, which would probably be considered worthless because their jabs were extremely good but didn't have the best mids, those characters were actually very good. So an accidental mechanic that worked out very good. And I didn't mean you couldn't duck highs, you just couldn't duck them within a certain amount of early frames of when the high was coming out. You see, so you could still go under highs, and you could do moves that would leave you in crouch, and then the high would not be able to hit you or punish you. But if you were trying to duck, so for example, Jax has this move. It's a low. It's judo back 3, and you'd be playing in his Muay Thai stance, which is his main stance, and you would use this instant stance switch judo back 3 just to keep them on check. Because if they wanted to duck it, then you could use the jab and they would get hit by a full branch combo. More on this later, which gave characters without the most dominant lows a way to harass people with lows to free up their jabs, right? And you would think this sounds very scrubby. However, it's not, because they accidentally just have a lot of high-level mechanics in this game. There are impales with your weapon. There are obviously, this game it might be the only game that had dynamic block where your character is doing this, right?
Yeah, I remember that.
I don't know. Dynamic blocks. Of course, there's a way to exploit that, which is still very good. For example, if you wanted to do a safe impale attempt from certain ranges, now they could sidestep it, but if you would they block it from certain ranges and they got hit by the impale, they would be impaled by the weapon. However, if they blocked it from a certain range, they would have almost like anyone that plays MK4 knows the animation when you're jailed and stand block and your weird animation comes out where you're kind of like this. MK Deadly Alliance still had that. So the impale would come out from max range and you would be in transition. It would start giving you the transition during the whiff frames of it, and you would block it from max range and couldn't move. The same thing from up close. If you go to block and Jax does a ground pound and you're already blocking, once he gets to a certain point in the air, you then can't release block and jump late. The game will give you this transition and lock you in place. Obviously, at high level, you're going to react to these kind of...
And like, this is really awesome. Like, there's a lot of detail that I didn't even know about when it comes to like these games. And that's obviously because this is his forte, right? This is like his nuance still. But at the same time, it's a dog shit game out of the whole series, and I'm still standing on that hill. So there.
The things, just little quirky things that we noticed about the game.
And was this the last Mortal Kombat game to not feature a breaker? Because after this, right, they brought breakers in.
Yes, it was the last one. That's the best thing about the game. There's no breaker, which is great.
It didn't need it though. It seems very footsie based.
No, it doesn't need it. It's very footsie based. This game also has so what you want to do is you want to utilize, some characters had a dominating one stance, others you wanted to use 2 stances from one. So for example, Quan Chi, his Tang Sudo and his broadswords were a very powerful stance, especially his broadswords. But Quan Chi, there are a lot of people that played in broadswords and would instant switch to Tang Sudo. One, because Tang Sudo gave you access to I believe the counter was in Tang Sudo. So you could do TSD, so instant stand switch into his counter, his reversal, and TSD. You could also instant stand switch from broadswords into his jabs, his faster jabs. So you want to make use of 2 stances from one. For example, Baraicho, even without Baraicho's Infinite, Drunken Fist is just devastating. However, we did try to test how broken these, because the puke puddle, for example, lasts for a very long time. There's even some frames in which it's no longer visible, but still active for maybe 1 or 2 frames, and you could accidentally slip on it, and it occupies a big portion. But Baraicho can't just turtle behind it and puke all day, because there are just way too many counters for it. One, Shang Tsung's 3D Fireball, while it's a high, it'll hit you sidestepping, and it will hit you in transition. So again, if you're trying to approach and duck and whatever, and he's close and you do it late, it will hit you, and it does 13%. So Shang Tsung is a very good zoner. Most people think, oh, if I'm a zoner, I'm going to play Draman. You would actually play Shang Tsung. Very difficult. Baraicho, impossible for him to fight Shang Tsung in Drunken Fist. He has to leave Drunken Fist to go into his weapon stance to allow him to move quickly, and because you don't want to go into Maizong, because then you have to switch twice when you get into Drunken when you finally get near.
So, like, how do I say this in a polite manner, right? The 3D era, with all of this technical, like, stuff that they put in and whatnot, that they did with all the fighting stances, was completely abandoned when MK9 came out, right? And this is why, like, obviously, as MK fans, Like, I played all fighting games back then, right? But like, MK is my baby, right? But I love the genre of fighting games, so I'll play Virtua Fighters, Tekken, Soul Caliburs, Dead or Alive, you know, you name it, I played it. But there's a reason, like, there's a reason why, like, MK fans weren't big fans of you know, we didn't like or want to play a Tekken clone, right? Because of this level of intricacy. Whereas for a Tekken player or a Virtual Fighter player, this probably made a lot more sense, you know, in that regard, because of the 3D combat, the types of combat that these games enable, the movement, etc. And that's perfectly fine. Like, that's obviously perfectly fine. I was talking to a mate earlier. He was saying that a lot of people back then would always wonder, oh, what it'd be like if we ever got a 3D MK, and we got it. We got 3 of them, and they never came back, right? And I think it's because, you know, while I think this was a worthy experiment that they tried, and we did get, like Mike was saying, like, this is a kick-ass Scorpion design. Like, this is a great Scorpion design. In fact, I think most of the Sub-Zero designs, and I think most of the designs in the game in general are actually really good. But it's the combat, right? The combat was such a far cry from what we had in the 2D era, right? And it never came back. Like, it just never came back, right? And so it's great. Like, it's awesome listening to Tom's knowledge on this, the intricacies in knowing this stance versus this stance, and going into this stance if you need to say, you know, like your counter, etc. But that was a level of detail that obviously some MK fans wanted, because maybe they were, you know, possibly like secret in the closet Tekken fans, you know, or Virtual Fighter fans, and they were kind of hoping maybe one day MK could have that level of intricacy, perhaps. You know, so I don't know. I mean, it's very interesting listening to this. Very interesting.
You want to get to a certain range and be able to switch right into the next stance. This was very important for several characters in the game. So there is not one stance that's, oh my God, too good. There's always a counter to it. There's always a way to stop it, etc. Mm-hmm. Also, one Scorpion, you're seeing this move right here called Pigwa 3. That kick right there, devastating move. Very good move. This game gives you what's called backdash canceling. So for certain moves, you can backdash cancel and make the move safe, or jump out of it, like jump backwards or backdash cancel. However, we didn't like to jump out of it, because sometimes from the more wrong ranges, if you timed it and you got caught airborne, the combos did even more damage. So there's also a technique in this game called jump canceling, which does several things. One, it will greatly extend the range of the move. And you do this by trying to jump forward or strike, whatever, because you can't just hold up. Jump forward and cancel your jump, like you do like a jump attack and like a jump kick or whatever, and you would cancel, you would plink immediately into another attack, and this would give you a jump cancel. The move would come out a little faster, would have more range, things like that. So it was a good thing. Like Baraicho, for example, when you get in a certain range, you would jump cancel something like his 3-2, which is a very good move. And it gives it a little extended range. This was very big as a Baraicho player who was going against characters where you were near, you got into Drunken Fist, and then you were just not quite in range. You would use this to extend the range of your attacks, things of that nature. Jump cancel also cut animation frames. Once we realized that it made certain moves faster, we said, oh, it makes certain moves faster because it probably cuts out some of the animation. Then we would use it for things like power-up. So for a power-up, actually, Mike, if you go to Test Your Might right now, some of these mechanics are actually laid out for you. So some people from South America made some videos of me. If you go to Test Your Might and you go to the Mortal Kombat Deadly Alliance board, I have a full Mortal Kombat Deadly Alliance guide, which I never completed because it's me. So they're like, die, Tom.
Oh, people ask me about that all the time, though. It was like, are you going to ask Tom about the Deadly Alliance guide?
Yeah. So the Deadly Alliance guide.
Where would I find that on here?
Can you Test Your Might 3D MK Mortal Kombat Deadly Alliance?
Nothing comes up. Would you be able to link it to me?
Yeah, I can link it to you.
So glad that you're going over this, because the chat has argued with me for years now about Deadly Alliance.
About this?
I told these guys, Deadly Alliance is the one. CJ saying Deception's better. Deception's got
It's
better
not.
content,
It's
but
not.
it's not a
It's
better
not.
fighting game.
Yeah, by content, it's way better. Deception is the king of kings.
Yeah.
You know, when it comes to content, obviously. So let's do. Let's see the complete MKDA guide. Here we go. Let me link this to you. And I really hope this game is in. Here we go. I linked it to you on Twitter. I really hope this game is in because they have the Game Boy version of it. So why wouldn't they put this in?
Okay, let me bring it up.
I'm gonna answer this question. I'm gonna answer it until the end of time. Thomas, they're not gonna put the 3D era. They're not gonna put a singular 3D era title in there. Because for starters, if you look at the gameplay that they showed in the trailer, it's all legacy gameplay. The reason why the Game Boy Advance versions are in there is because the hardware is legacy. Right? The hardware was getting offshoots of the main releases because the hardware, the Game Boy hardware and Game Boy Advance was persisting throughout the age, right? It was persisting through different generations, both 8-bit, 16-bit, 32-bit. So they would keep getting versions, like hand-me-downs. Like, oh yeah, we'll make a version for you, don't worry about it, right? Yeah, you'll have less characters, stages and shit, but at least you got it, right? And that's the reason why it's in there, because it's old. Like it's a legacy game in hardware, right? So this is, and again, you got to come at this from a marketing perspective. If they put Deadly Alliance in there, but they don't put Deception or Armageddon, people are going to start going, well, where's the rest, right? So this is where, from a marketing perspective, they are absolutely going to have different collections, or make the 3D collection a downloadable pack and make the MK Legacy collection a front end for all things Mortal Kombat, like all things Mortal Kombat Legacy, right? And that's it's all about the marketing. It's all about the cohesive product. You know, 3D era MK starts from Deadly Alliance, PS2, Xbox, GameCube era, and it finishes at the Wii version, right, of Armageddon, essentially, when it finally got that version and Female Chameleon, right? That's where it ends. It starts and ends. That's it. That's all you need, right? So, and that would make a lot more sense. You know, they're not going to put it in. There's a huge hopium. Huge hopium. And listen, they might do it and surprise us all. But I don't think they will. I don't think they will, because I think they've done this for a reason. And I think the Legacy Collection is a statement of future intent.
So let's see. Interrupt.
Do you reckon they're actually going to put it in? Because yeah, these, like you said, they've got the Game Boy version in the game.
So if you look at,
they've
okay, so
acknowledged
if you
it.
scroll down to MKDA attack jump cancel. Do you see that video? Keep going down.
MKDA. This one.
Yes. You just hit play it. I should play it right there without.
I went full screen for some reason.
You can
I
play
don't
it
know.
there. We can see it.
Okay.
Just hit play.
Right. Yeah, so the screen's gone funny on mine. 1 second. Yeah, you might want to keep talking to them for a second. Let me just fix this.
Yeah, so basically what jump
mental.
cancel does, like, so there were things such as power-ups that had these long, arduous frames, and life-ups where these long frames. So here we go, jump canceling. See how slow that is? And then if you jump cancel it,
Oh wow.
it's a little faster. But there are some that are light. See, it's a little faster. So play the original one, one, and then jump.
What, this one?
Yeah, then there's that one. Yeah. See, there's that, and then that's attack cancel. That's the wrong example. Jump cancel makes the move bigger. That's attack cancel. So you could attack and cancel with jump, backdash, etc. So you could actually backdash cancel by whiffing an attack and still backdash cancel it.
Was that on?
So those are life ups.
Oh, hang on. Was this all on purpose? Was this like actually coded into the game, or was this just like they were saying, like a happy accident, and they just left it?
We'll go down to power up, for example, and
this one.
Look at how slow these power ups are. So Quan Chi probably has the fastest one, I believe. Oh no, Sub-Zero is going to be a slower one. You can actually do those.
I forgot. Holy shit! I forgot. Like the power up would literally make your character swell, and then de-swell. But this is the best Mortal Kombat game. Are you kidding me? Are you, bro?
Much faster. Power-ups can be jump canceled to be even faster than that. Life-ups can be, some of them are significantly faster. As in, sometimes you're cutting literally 50% of the animation. Scroll down to Impale. No, that's not the glitch Impale. Keep going down. Guard all. Keep going down. No, okay, that's good. That's enough. It's quite extensive, the guide. If you keep going, look at it. I did it in order of tier list. You know, these are not.
So what's missing from it then? Because they're saying they want you to finish it.
The few characters at the bottom I'm missing.
Do you reckon you'll ever finish it?
If they include it, I'll finish it. There you have it.
I told you he's not done with gaming.
So,
That's fair.
Yeah, overall, so you had, and again, you would think, oh, the life ups. What's to stop Baraicho from puking and standing behind and doing jump cancel life up all day? Well, life up restores a little bit of health at first, and then significantly less until after a few of them, less than a handful, it restores 0 health. So they thought of these things by accident, probably. And also, what's to stop somebody, for example, in ramming out a branch combo, right? Ramming it out and then backdash canceling at a safe spot, right? It's scrubby gameplay. They're doing a branch combo. So everything has what's called interrupt. Oh, if you go back to that thread, there's the interrupt. I want to show you that really quick. My mistake. I'm sorry, Mike.
Oh, that's okay.
It's more toward the top, interrupt. This is a very big part of the game. Very, very big part.
So what are we looking at here?
Interrupt. Look for where it says interrupt. Tracking, backdash.
This one.
Yes. So we see Quan Chi's going to do some jabs here. Oh, Scorpion. See that? He did 2 hits. Boom, boom. He can't block, and he can't even finish the attack. So even if he tries to finish his attack or block, he can't. Here's why that's important. So I just talked about highs hitting in transition. So it sounds really scrubby, right? Somebody's going to ram out these massive branch combos. We call it a branch because you branch from all 3 stances. Going to ram out these branches. These fast jabs will hit mid in transition, and they can just backdash cancel at a safe point. Wrong. So say you want to come in with a slower mid. Now, Pigma 3 is very fast, but it's not as fast as these fast jabbers, right? So if you're actually coming in and they anticipate you're going to do a ranged normal that's a little slower, and just say, I'm just going to, every time you come near, I'm going to hold up and mash my jabs and hit you. You can't do that because you have to commit. So if you're Jax, for example, and you're going to ram out this 2-hit, to the first 2 hits is 2-2, you could, in theory, do 2-2, stand switch, something 4, I don't remember the full branch, and then backdash cancel. However, after the first 2 hits of your branch, if you try to block, you can't. And even if you try to continue the combo, you will be interrupted. So the problem is, if you're just ramming out these fast starters for branch combos,
That was the other thing too that bugged me about like the 3D era. Right, at least in Deadly Alliance, it felt like we got fuck all special moves. You know, compared to then when Deception and then Armageddon came out. Right, again, because they were becoming very reliant on the physical aspect of the attacks, right? They were pulling away. I mean, yes, obviously all Mortal Kombats have physical attacks, right? But like there was also a lot of special move play in classic MK, right? And it felt like they were trying to deviate away from that and push into the Tekken realm of like more hand and feet type, combat. Which again, like, from going from the classic era like we did to that, maybe some people were looking forward to that. Maybe some people were playing Tekken and Virtual Fighter and they wanted that in MK. But for myself and many others as well, we're like, nah, I don't want to sit here and learn 3 stances. I just want my character with his special moves, his basic attacks, his basic dialer combos, and that's it. Like, and it was such a radical shift.
Have to confirm them. Because after 2 hits...
And they never brought it back. That's what I'm saying. Like, they never brought it back, and then the next big MK game that saved them was MK9. Right? Now, that's not to say that Mortal Kombat 3D era tanked Midway. It didn't tank Midway. That wasn't the reason why Midway went bankrupt. But again, if you're doing something that's popular, something that people are really loving, you generally carry it over, to a degree, right? But they didn't. They went back to 2D gameplay. Hell, they did it with MK vs. DC.
You're dead. So it's fair. It's a big risk to not know you have a guaranteed branch and just ram out these branch combos. So even though these highs hit in transition, to assume your high is going to hit is extremely risky. So if you wanted to do your low in judo for jacks and they block it, you're going to die. If you do your jab, your single jab is safe. You can kind of feel people out, play a side-stepping jab game. But if you commit to your double jab, you're going to get punished for it. So for example, I'm coming in with Scorpion and I want to hit you with a range peak with 3. But your jacks or your Kung Lao a fast jabber, and you're going to just ram your jab string out first. I block it. Now I'm going to interrupt after a second hit with 2-2-1, Hellfire, and then I come in for my pressure. Also, as dumb as Scorpion's Peak with 3 is, fast jabbers don't allow you to do it at anywhere near close range because they will punish you. Where most characters can't punish it at all because of the backdash cancel, fast jabbers will. So even though they're significantly lower on the tier list than Scorpion, who's at number 1, they can do certain things to him that other characters can't, which severely force him to change the range he does things and how he plays the game. So it's a very high level game, and how all these things are and how all these systems really
look how many special moves this character has.
Allow you to do it at anywhere near close range because they will punish you. Where most characters can't punish it at all because of the backdash cancel, fast jabbers will. So even though they're significantly lower on the tier list than Scorpion, who's at number 1, they can do certain things to him that other characters can't, which severely force him to change the range he does things and how he plays the game. So it's a very high level game.
What's this?
And how all these things are and how all these systems.
Natara has 2 special moves. Right now, I don't hate Deadly Alliance, just so we're clear. It's just that because John Tobias was out of the picture, it was first game under Ed Boon solely, in terms of there was no other person there that was the other half, to check him on the creation of this game moving forward. So that was a big one for me. But even little things like this, they were really, because Ed Boon's always had a hard-on for Tekken, right? And so he absolutely was trying to get that Tekken, that Tekken vibe and Tekken feel, but in Mortal Kombat. Obviously, they couldn't take special moves completely out, but you can see with the way that the fatalities were handled, the way that the special moves were handled, that they were trying to create essentially a Tekken or 3D era type of fighting game, and of course the main gimmick naturally was the 3 combat style switches.
Really balanced themselves out. Mechanically, this is the I guess when it comes to balance, obviously I got the infinites. God damn it, Midway, you always find a way to ruin everything. But it's probably the easiest game to patch because you could just patch the timer reset bug out. Probably the easiest. You don't have to, what's the code? What's this? It's probably the easiest game to patch out. This game also has things like backwards.
I'm sure they would. That's the interesting part. I wonder too. If they did bring back these the 3D era, or there are anything in the 2D era legacy stuff that is really game breaking, they could patch it. I'm assuming they could patch it.
Tech roll, things like that, untechable knockdowns. I mean, for example, Sonya, she basically, and here's what I mean by the risk reward. She's got this great move, Taekwondo 3. So you would think, oh, 50-50 character, overhead launcher. No, because you're going to die for that. Launcher's fast, but also slow. You play her as a very footsie character. Kiss, her roll from range, because the roll's unsafe, but she can use the roll from range to get in and be safe. And a lot of times you would use this move to get in, and you poke and sidestep was still very big, because not every move can be used for universal tracking. There are some moves that have up in them, but they don't track. So, for example, like I think Baraicho has his I forget what some of these moves are, but they're very difficult to make track because they're like forward and back moves. So the command is forward this or back this, and they don't track. So it's very difficult to make them track. And a lot of times those moves will be sidestepped. So you're playing Sonya, for example. Just to show you how the risk reward is. So Sonya's got overheads and lows. It's a 3D game. Mids are going to be mid. You can't duck them. So, for example, say she gets in. She's very unsafe with her Taekwondo 2 overhead or her low. All her Kali stick stuff is unsafe. Things like that. So what you would do is you would use her Taekwondo 3, which is safe. However, her lows are not. So her single low back 3, unsafe. If you call it out, you're going to hit her. She could do back 3-3 for an extra attack that you can't interrupt. However, all that's going to give you is a knockdown, and if she's wrong, full combo punish. She also has like other things like her stand 4 into, which is an overhead. However, it's unsafe. She can do stand 4 into back 3, unsafe. Stand 4 into back 3-3. It's all unsafe. So you're not going to get comboed for it. You're not going to lose a ton of damage. And if you call it out or know when she's going to stagger, it's a full combo. And if she completes it, it's a full combo. So you're not dead. The risk reward is more in your favor if you want to call it out, right? It doesn't favor the scrubby 50-50 in that scenario. But her Taekwondo 3, it's not techable. She also has her back 4, which is unsafe. It's a 3-hitting low. She also has her back 4 in the Kali sticks, which is also safe if you want to punish the back 4. So notice there's a common theme here. Risk, risk, risk. I'm not doing 50 or 40 when I call it your bluff, right? So you're not doing that. But I am losing 40 or 50 when you call my bluff. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But her roundhouse is very abusable. But it's just a single hit knockdown. So she's not 50-50ing you with combos and all these things. Also, throws are blockable. So unlike throws being unblockable that cause a massive problem in Deadly Alliance, Deception, they're blockable in this game. So you would think they're worthless. Not at all. You have Drummond, who primarily plays in Iron Club, his weapon stance. And Drummond, he's not a scrubby zoner because you can educate your eyes. I'm an old man and I could still do it. Where if he's going to stand far away and backdash and mix you up with a fly ball or a ground pound, you can visibly see the tell between the ground pound and the fly ball. So it's not a scrubby runaway mix-up, but he has a great get off me move in his Iron Club 4. Doesn't go to combo. Great get off me move. You can backdash cancel it as well. But when he gets in, or when you get in on him, he can also be defensive in some ways. That's why the zoner of the game is more Shang than Drummond. He can do back 3, his Iron Club low. Also death on block. It's just a knockdown. He can then choose to continue to get away from you, or if he wants to do another one to mix you up with a 50-50, again, this is all death on block. If he hits you, he can try to, if you're trying to guard the low, try to surprise you with a surprise ground pound. If you're caught off guard, it could hit you. Also, when he hits you with the low, he can then mix you with his throw. The throw, it gives a combo animation, which allows him to then back 2 and then activate power up. And now you have to get up. He can low you again for a 30% low. Also, death on block. Keep in mind, risk reward. He can do a throw, which if you're trying to block the low. If you go to block the throw, the low, and the throw hits, it's like a 50%, 60% combo.
So you've obviously picked up, like, because obviously Tom's very much on the intricacies of the fighting game side of it, right? And while I have mentioned things like the music and menus and things like that, you can always tell, with somebody where they're where the thing that really matters to them most, right? So I'm very dismissive of the combat because I didn't like it. It was very alien compared to what I'm used to in a Mortal Kombat series. Whereas like my other focuses also are things like like I mentioned, fatalities, lack of special moves, that sort of thing. The de-evolution of reptile. There was no any big bad either. Like there was no Shao Kahn or anything like that. It was literally just Deadly Alliance, right? And that's sort of a shame too, because like obviously Deception again brought in a Naga, which became like the ultimate like bad guy. We literally just got 2 games with that fucker, and that was it. Which is a real shame, because Onaga basically, like, even though he's been 2 games, his aura outpaces Shao Kahn and Shang Tsung as bosses and Shinnok as bosses, right? Because they designed him so well, and how he was introduced in the Deception intro was so well. So as a whole product, Deadly Alliance, MK5, obviously that was its original name. It gave us a lot of cool things that eventually moved forward into the series well beyond the 3D era. But there were a lot of things that did not come back. Even some of them were heavily modified after its first iteration in Deadly Alliance.
And if you block the throw, he's also dead. If you try to guard both, he can surprise you with a ground pound, which is much harder to block up close, where there's risk to doing it. So again, risk reward, because you're looking, it's not far away. You're only looking for fly ball or ground pound. Now you're looking for overhead. You're looking for throw, low. You're looking for ground pound, much harder to guard, but very risky. So again, you'll notice risk reward is very fair and in this game, and how it's done. Yeah. You don't really see that in Mortal Kombat games like this. This game is just, if they put this game in, I can see this game in MK9, if they put them both in, the legacy. Because Ed Boon did make a tweet saying, oh, MK9 is just old enough where we could remaster it and it'd be great, right? So if he doesn't put MK9 in, it's like, Ed, are you so stupid that you don't understand what you're hinting at? You know what I'm saying?
No, but this is the thing. Again, not to give Warner Brothers ideas or NetherRealm ideas or Digital Clips ideas, but this comes down to just pure marketing and hype. Look at the impact that this Legacy Collection has had off one fucking trailer. Wait till they announce the rest of the games and another trailer. And apparently, from what I'm understanding, there might have been some of these people out there that have actually played this already. Because did they have this at the Sony State of Play or something? I don't know what I've been seeing things on Twitter about something about like, oh, there's I think one of the guys at Digital Clips says, oh yeah, plan a day of interviews and something, and I'm like, what the fuck are the interviews, bro? Like, where are they? Well, something like, I don't know, it was something to that effect, right? And this is one trailer. Just one trailer, right? They're not going to put MK9 in it. I absolutely, I could almost bet the farm that they won't put the 3D era in there. They'll do it as separate packs, right? Because they want people to get hungry, right? We technically speaking, some of us have been fucking starving, right? But people that have forgotten about the 3D era, and suddenly their friend brings them up or sends them a message and say, dude, you've got to see this. Remember when we used to play Deception back in the day? Check this shit out, bro. And it'll be a brand new trailer showcasing the 3D era. Right? That's wild. Do you understand? Like the impact and the hype from that will be so great. That's why that's why I think they're going to do it this way. This is why I've been talking about this for a long time. I would love to have everything, all of it in one package. But if you stick something like MK9 or MK Deadly Alliance by itself in there as well, it's going to break the other possibilities. Because then other people are going, well, what about the other ones? You gave us Deadly Alliance? Really? Over Deception? Really? Hell, I'd take Armageddon over Deadly Alliance. You know, so this is where I think they're going to play it smart. I could be wrong. Again, I don't have a fucking crystal ball or anything like that. But I don't think they're going to do it. But every single MK fan out there should be taking this, as far as I'm concerned, in my opinion, as their signal to intent moving forward. This is what we're giving you. But it's not going to stop there. And I guarantee you that they're going to keep moving forward with this. Because like I've been saying also for the longest time, they must have been looking at what Capcom's been doing and going, how do we do that for ourselves? Right? This ignorance to their legacy, whether it be 2D or 3D or MK9, has got to stop, and it is stopping. The Legacy Collection is stopping that. Right? And then they'll bring out the 3D collection or something like that. And you know, the hype will be even more because then we're getting that one step closer to MK9. And imagine the trailer for MK9. Just imagine for a second watching a remastered trailer for MK9. Right? They bring in all the DLC that was missing from the Vita, in the Vita version, they put it into the main versions. Rollback netcode, 4K support. It's all over. That's it. I don't need to give a shit about another Mortal Kombat game ever again. I'm done. I will have everything at my fingertips for the rest of my natural life.
Yeah. Just goes to show how Ed Boon doesn't read the room. This game, absolutely amazing. Absolutely amazing. One of the best fighting games of all time. And I'm telling you, you have no idea how high level this game is. And very balanced. Obviously, there's a tier list, but man, this game is just very good game. And the fact that other people have played it for years after us and tried to break it, and even they couldn't break it, tells you that they actually did something right.
It was like they caught lightning in a bottle.
They did.
Lightning in a bottle that fizzled out that they never brought back in the future games and ever since, right? I'm telling you, like this is where I view MK as a whole product, because obviously Tom has been very laser focused on the combat side of things, very balanced, blah blah blah, and this is why I wanted to play this so you guys could see what he was talking about in case you didn't see it on the stream. I'll link this video obviously in the description so you can go check it out in full. But the reason why, right, this is the worst is because they deviated so much from MK, in my opinion, right? And then they brought it all the way back in Deception. So maybe there were problems in Deception. Maybe it wasn't as balanced. But you know what? Most people didn't give a fuck. Because Deception felt like, yep, they were listening. They were respecting Mortal Kombat again because it felt like, just like with MK1, right? MK1 was the Deadly Alliance Deadly Alliance was the MK1 of this era, right? It just completely like deviated on this massive track, just like MK1 did with the cameo system and the fucking postcard backgrounds and just this, you know, it just didn't even have soul. It didn't feel like this was MK. Now, granted, Deadly Alliance obviously did a better job with that. Of course, music, sound effects, you know, modes, that sort of thing. But back then, right, so you can't take it now. You got to remember, back then, after coming off Trilogy, MK4 then Gold, right, and all the way back for some of us that started with MK1, our entrenched gameplay was all 2D. And then they changed the fuck out of it. And it happened right as soon as John Tobias was out of the door. Now, it might have stayed like that, even if he was. We don't know. We'll never know. But I don't think he's a fan of it, judging by a certain other interview I watched, you know, that it felt like after his departure, they didn't really care for what was being done, you know, when it came to the games, right? I think there was one question that was asked to John Tobias about, is there a post character that was made that he wished he'd thought of, or one that he really liked? And I think it was Kenshi. And yeah, Kenshi is an absolutely wonderful addition. It's the offset, it's the complete offset to Ermac, right? We now get the good version of Ermac, you know, if you will. So yeah, so there was as a whole package, right? Like it didn't have, like, it was bad enough that they changed so much, you know, and that's when we got Deception.
What's next on the timeline?
So next, also, right? I do just want to let the chat know I'm vindicated now. No more Deadly Alliance slander. I was right all along. Yes, the next one's Deception. Just for
So I'll leave it there. Let me know what you guys think of that, Tom. Listen, I can't believe, right, that you would put that ahead of Trilogy and Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3. That is literal blasphemy, right? I got a personal phone call from Jesus when I found this out, and he said, "Listen, my son, you gotta sort this guy out, right? This is unacceptable, right? He's literally gonna be welcomed into heaven, and then he does this. He does this, right? This is unacceptable. We must have Tom in heaven, but he can't come into heaven if he has this game in front of Mortal Kombat Trilogy." I just want to see. I just want to see something.
Move on to Deception.
Where's he putting Deception?
Read out the remaining super chats.
Where's he putting Deception? Where's Deception going?
Shang Tsung couldn't end in their game. MK Deception.
Where'd he put it? Where's he putting it?
Oh, sorry, Deception. Yeah, sorry, my bad.
I'm actually going to put Deception at pretty damn good.
Ah. All right, man. Put the sherry down. That's it. Time to go home. Come on. Right. You've had enough. Cut him off, bartender. Right. He's had enough. Shout out to both Mike and Tom. This was a great video. Please go check out this video. I'll post a link in the description. And I will catch you guys next time. See you later.